Talk about here is how we can create paths inside Unreal in the landscape. This isn't paths like small paths that you find inside a scene. These are easy to set up, but a little bit more kind of like specialized in the way you might have them. So if you're doing racing games, you're doing long paths across terrain. If you're doing roads, so you can you drive down them kind of roads. This is the kind of thing. And I must admit, this is something that I've not done a whole lot of. So if I fumble through a little bit, forgive me. It's just nothing that is, because I'm a character artist, it's not something I've had a lot of experience with. The whole landscape thing is I say relatively. It's been a couple of years since I've been looking into the landscape kind of stuff, properly the environment landscape kind of stuff. Right. So what we've got here is a curve. As you can see, we've got a road going round as a loop. And you can see there's like a little green frame around it. And you can see the terrain actually deforms to it as well. So that's it. Relatively easy to do. Few steps involved. I'll try and get it all right first time around, but we shall see. So what I'm going to do is just delete this whole jimmy jam like that. So what did I actually do there? So I was using a terrain. And a terrain is a special piece of geometry within Unreal that we can actually, paint and sculpt and define and all that kind of stuff. Anyone who's using landscape, the open world scene, you'll probably have one of these in already. So if you've not, though, very simple to do. If I come up here, where we normally have selection mode, I'm going to drop this down. I'm going to come to landscape. And I'm just going to create a basic landscape in here. The only thing I'm going to make sure I've got ticked is enable edit layers here at the top. So I'm not really going anywhere. We've got new, create new, enable, edit layers. I'm just going to click OK. So these are the basic settings. You can play with these as much as you want. I would be careful because it's very easy to make literally a 100-mile by 100-mile section of environment. So just be careful with that. We're going to click this. There we go. And I'm not really sticking to the 40 meter by 40 meter landscape for this. I'm just showing you how to do it. So there we go. It's all good. So what we're going to come and do is come over here to manage, and I'm going to spline right here. And spline, so manage into spline. Spline is, spline's a spline. A spline is, if you've ever used Illustrator or paths inside Photoshop, it's basically points or even curves inside Maya. It's a point to point to point to point thing where between each point it creates a curve in between it. Not straight lines like geometry, a curve. So what I'm going to do is hold control while I've got manage spline selected. I'm going to hold control and click, and then click, and then click, and then click, and then click. And you'll see a curve appears. This little green kind of like road appears. And that's creating our actual spline. And you can do this unidirectional where it's literally a never-ending. It ends, not never-ending. It ends. Or if you actually want to make this an ending, I could come around here. If I hold control and click on my original first point there, it creates a full loop. Very, very good. So we've actually created our path really well. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So if we come down, we'll get close. I will actually just go into full screen mode for this. So you see here, you'll see this little icon. It's like a little terrain icon. It's literally a terrain icon. If I pick that up, I can move it up. So I can actually move my terrain around, down, up, round. I can even give it, if I get this one, I want to have a bit of a bank on this one. I can rotate around. All that kind of stuff. But as you can see, it's clipping through the floor. But if in my manage spline here, if I deform landscape to spline, all splines, you can see here that it actually deforms the landscape as best as it can to that spline. Now that here is my original ground, so I can actually grab that and delete it. There we go. Go back to landscape mode. There we go. So you can see here, it kind of tries its best to define the spline to the surface. Sometimes it's not the best because, I've told it to do something quite drastic there. But again, I can just move this out, move it around, move it up maybe so it comes up possibly, and then I can deform alt spline that again. Now because this is terrain, just a quickie about terrains, I can come into the sculpt, and then I can actually hold shift and I'm in ZBrush mode there. I can come here to sculpt to flatten or smooth, and I can actually smooth that out. If you've been moving the terrain around, I can even use the sculpt to sculpt out, you know, it's very, very steep there. I can use the sculpt to, you know, sculpt it out. Smooth it back a little bit. Smooth, there we go. Smooth it out. All that kind of jazz. That's all nice and good, but that's not really what I want, is it? I'm more concerned about my spline. There we go. Boop. So as you can see, it's very easy to adjust. Add spline. To just grab bits. If you want to add more, you just hold Alt and drag out from a spline, and it will create a new spline segment, allowing you to, you know, make the spline a bit bigger. It's like that. So I can make a kind of racetrack. I'll just flatten this out. There we go. Adjust to our splines. There we go. Awesome. So that's good. We're actually making our spline track, and obviously I've made mine a lot bigger. Make sure you are fitting this within, if you are doing something like this, make sure you are fitting this into our 40 meter by 40 meter. Now you can actually make this, I was talking about roads and racetracks and stuff, but you can use this for actual roads, paths and that kind of stuff. This is all within the landscape generator. So, you know, use it as you will, experiment as you will. And what I'm going to do is select all points like that. And off here on the right hand side, so select all points is right here. On the right hand side here, I've got this whole menu. And what you'll find is inside landscape mesh right here, mesh, you'll find mesh right there. And I should be able to search. Now I've already got a piece of geometry already made from Maya. It's a simple kind of like raised road section. But notice how I've put some segments in it. This helps deformation. If this was just a flat plane, the deformation would be very, very bad. This is just giving me a little bit of bend and curve to it. And this is a 4 meter by 4 meter section. You've got to know how big your road is. Is your road 10 meters wide? Is your road or path 1 meter wide? You've got to know that. You've got to understand that. I've not UV'd it or anything, because that's UVing for me is not really important for this. It's just the geometry that I want for this tutorial. We all know how to UV, so it's fine. Nope, that's the wrong one. There we go. And what I can do is come into here, or if I can find it in my outline here, so I've got my road piece there, I can click and drag it into here. You can see it's not fitting on all that bit, so I'm going to grab a segment. Oh, right, this is a bit of a bug that I found actually recently. I need to grab segments. If I just control you back a little bit. Again, this is me not using these all the time, so I've got to remind myself about stuff. Details kind of bugs out. I want to grab all this, but I need to close it, and I believe I need to open it again to see my segment. Excuse me a minute. There we go. So what I've had to do is basically click off the actual segment itself. It's still active, and if I select all segments, then I get what I want here. This is what I want. I don't know if I'm doing anything wrong, or it's kind of like a bit of a bug with this version or whatever. But what I want here is I'm coming down to landscape spline meshes right here. And you see spline meshes, array, all that kind of jazz. So what I want to do is click on the little plus icon. It adds an array element, like here. And this mesh, this is what I want. I'm going to drag this road into there. And boom, there you'll see. So it started to apply this road to the whole surface. You will see there's a bit of an issue though. But what I'd like to point out is the way it's curving and bending around corners. That's because of the amount of edges I put in. It's not a ton, it's only a few, but it's enough for it to deform itself along that curve. Now obviously that's not right, so what I need to do is actually change the way that this road is actually facing. This is really, really simple. So within this index here, this spline mesh index 0, what I'm going to do is come down to forward, what's it called? It's forward something something. Forward axis. There you go. And X. Now, X is side to side inside ZBrush, but our forward axis is Y within ZBrush. So I'm going to change that to Y, and then, boop, and there we go. So then that actually applies it to the whole road. So you can see, that's really cool, isn't it? And this is all like an active mesh, so if I come out and click off, I can find my little... bit tougher now because they're underneath the geometry, but I can find my pieces here, and I can, you know, whoop, move it out there, so I can make a bit of a straightaway, apply geometry. There you go. You know, There's the gizmo there, so I can move that over here. Again, spline points. And again, because this is terrain, I can just smooth this out if I want to. So I can come into my sculpt, I can go to flatten or smooth or whatever and just start to push it down, whatever. Now, I will say that this actually is bigger than it should be. This piece of geometry is bigger than it should be. That's because it's scaling to the width of the actual road itself that I put down. It's scaling it to it. So this is actually really wide. This is almost like, I don't know, 10 meters wide. Now, I made a 4 meter piece of flooring. That's because within this here, again, we've got this scale to width tick box here. If I tick this, we actually get the actual width of the road. So that's the actual width of the road I've got. So you can see that's quite good for paths. That's quite good for anything, really. Super, super good. Awesome. Only the last thing I'm going to do now is just talk about raising it up and down. So if I do actually make it fit to width, you'll see that it's very kind of high. It's very raised off the surface. And we can do this center adjust. And it's a second box here we want. If I say like minus moving it down 10, you see it moves down a little bit there. So it's not quite as prominent. Obviously, if you're not scaling it to the width, you might not want to touch that because it might actually push it through the ground, and it's obviously you don't want clipping or anything like that. But that is just making a mesh curve. Oh, sorry, not a mesh curve. Making a spline curve within the landscape editor. So it does need a landscape to work this to create a path. Very, very cool. And it's very easily adjustable. You can have fun. You can do whatever you want. Very, very cool. Now, in the next video, what I'm going to do is show you how to make this same thing, but not using the terrain, but using normal splines, which is a little bit more, well, it's much more blueprinty. But most of you aren't actually going to be using terrain elements. You might be just using splines to do paths, trails, whatever. So the next video, we're going to be doing just normal splines. Cool. See you in the next one.